Moving forward is whether criminal charges will result from the state's findings. We know Seattle Police does have an open and active investigation. Let's bring in Brandy Cruz on this. Brandy, what are your sources telling you?
Yeah, well, first, it's important to understand that this is as serious as it gets. When you talk about accidents like this, to say that it was willful in one of these violations, a willful, serious violation, it's essentially saying that you acted with complete disregard for safety, complete disregard for the safety of others. So the big question is, was that disregard so flagrant that it could be criminal? My sources are telling me that indeed the Seattle Police Department has an open, active, ongoing criminal investigation into this incident. So it's a criminal investigation that began the moment that crane fell down. You had 4 fatalities. The investigation opened then. But really what this investigation has had to wait for are the findings of the investigation that happened today. I mean, those L&I investigators, those are the experts. So essentially what's going to happen here is you have a homicide detective with the Seattle Police Department who is going to review the findings of the state's investigation, and they are going to determine whether there's anything there to pass on or any criminal case or criminal charges that they believe the King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office should pursue in this case. I will say, just my knowledge of what possible felony crimes you could be considering, negligent homicide, reckless endangerment. I'll give you this caveat. And the best example I have for this is the tour bus that crashed into the dock on the bridge. Right. There were no questions, some really serious lapses in safety that resulted in that. But there wasn't anyone brought up on criminal charges. What you did see, however, was a pretty big settlement in a civil court of law.
And potentially similar, that corners were cut and it ended up causing real fatalities and casualties.
I think the more likely result here is a civil trial as opposed to a criminal trial.
Everybody waiting for these findings today, starting with the family members of the victims. But I know the mayor's office has been watching this closely. What is the mayor's office saying today?
Yeah, and for 2 reasons. One of them being that we have these cranes all over the place. I mean, Hannah talked about there are more than 100 of these cranes across the state. We have a lot of them in Seattle. We have a booming city. As a mayor's office, you want to make sure that those job sites are safe, that the people who are walking on your streets, driving in cars on your streets are safe. But the other reason, and as Hannah pointed out there, a longtime City of Seattle employee who lost his life in that crane collapse. And so this is personal for the mayor's office as well. I spoke to Mark Prentice. He's the communications director for Jenny Durkin's office. He said, we have been following very closely given the tragedy that unfolded and its impact on the community and the families. We are currently reviewing the findings of the state's investigation to determine our next steps. And next steps could be, the big thing is you don't want it to happen again, right? This is the big issue. You don't want it to happen again. So for the city of Seattle, for the state of Washington, and for companies all across the entire country, this, for some reason, was a standard industry practice. People in the industry cut corners in this way.
Right.
The big thing going forward is to make sure it doesn't happen again. Right. And now everyone knows that, look, had the wind not picked up that day, would this crane have fallen over? Maybe not.
We should never
be picking
efficiency over safety.
Absolutely.
Brandy, thank you.
Well, our coverage of today's top